Hello, lovely to see you all here in this room, and a big hello, of course, to all the people who are joining us on the live stream now. Our panel discussion today will have the topic tech's answer to pollution. That's it. I'm very happy to be able to moderate this session now. My name is Manuela Kasper-Claridge. I'm the editor-in-chief of Deutsche Welle, which is Germany's international broadcaster. Yeah, and if you like to share your thoughts on social media, kindly use the hashtag WEF25. Yeah, that would be really helpful. Then we can see your comments as well. Yeah, the title of this session is very interesting because it says tech's answer to pollution. So it makes it seem an absolute certainty that there is one. If there is really one, we will find out today, hopefully. And we have very interesting panelists today. But first, let me say a few introductory remarks. Research published in the British Medical Journal estimates that air pollution is responsible for over 8 million deaths per year. As we speak, the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, containing 1.8 trillion pieces of plastic, continues to swirl around the ocean between California and Hawaii. And the United Nations says that 44% of all wastewater, from household sewage to industrial waste, returns to waterways and oceans untreated. These effects are what make pollution, and in particular air pollution, one of the UN's triple planetary crises the world is facing. But there's hope. There are technologies out there that can help reduce pollution, from smart air quality monitoring to renewable energy generation to advanced recycling technologies, and much more, of course. AI promises to make solutions more efficient. So what technology exactly exists to help us, and what is standing in the way of effective wide-scale implementation? We'd like to tackle those issues now, and let me introduce our distinguished panelists now. We start with Jessika Roswall. You are the EU Commissioner for Environment, Water Resilience, and a Competitive Circular Economy. Welcome. Then Ronaldo Lemos, Chief Scientific Officer at the Institute for Technology and Society of Rio de Janeiro and a WEF Young Global Leader. And Takayuki Morita, President and CEO of Japanese multinational IT and Electronics Corporation, NEC. Welcome, and please give them a round of applause. So I'd like to start with Ronaldo. Ronaldo, what hope is there for tech's answer to pollution with regards to AI, which is your special field?
Well, you asked the question that I think everyone is thinking a lot these days, right? Because as we see AI progressing so fast, we see also the demand for data centers escalating everywhere. We just seen an announcement from the United States. They will be investing $500 billion in building infrastructure for artificial intelligence. And I think so many other countries are also looking into that. The issue is whenever you build a data center, it consumes electricity and it consumes water. So I think we already know a few numbers. So for instance, data centers consume around 2% of the energy globally. Those are numbers from 2022. In 2026, the estimation is that data centers will consume as much energy as Germany and France together. So that's a lot. So the question we should ask is, what type of power is being used to basically provide energy to those data centers? If your power matrix is not clean, if you're burning coal, you are basically adding to the emissions in the atmosphere. And in the past few years, we see platforms struggling with rising emissions in the past 5 years, some of them to the amount of 50% of their emissions before that. So I think this is a call for us to think about renewable energy in this context. And Latin America as a whole, I think, has a play and an important possibility of how to act. And I will just give you one piece of information and then I'll stop and we can resume. But take Brazil alone. The matrix of energy in Brazil, the electric energy, is 93% coming from renewable sources. The global average is 28%. So Brazil is well above the global average in terms of renewable, in terms of electricity. And in my view, this is a key factor because the more renewable energy you have available, in my view, it's the potential that you have to attract also data centers that can be certified as non-polluting and non-increasing in terms of the emissions that we already have. So I think looking into that can be a pathway and how we address these issues.
But it still means that technology that could help us could be also a big polluter.
Oh, yes. And the thing is, I think technology has a role, but we have to think about technology in a broader sense. The technology, for instance, to producing renewable energy, it's not subject to patents. It's open technology. Some countries like Brazil and others in Latin America or even Indonesia, they dominate this technology really well. And actually, I see some cutting-edge developments in that sense. So for instance, the production of biomethane, which is a molecule that is just like natural gas, and that can be produced from the residues from agriculture. So for instance, soybeans, sugarcane that are abundant, especially in the developing world. That residue can be created in the form of gas by means of like fermentation and filtering. And the gas that results is just like the natural gas that you use for vehicles. It's the same molecule. It can be injected.
Very interesting.
Yeah, it can be injected in gas pipes and everything. And the potential is huge. So Germany now has an annual production of 2 billion square meters, 2 million, I'm sorry. And countries like Brazil has the potential of producing 20 times that amount. So Germany is the leader in biomethane in the world today. And I think this type of energy can be used to power
should be used, not just can be used. That's how I understand you should be used.
In my view, it should be used because the alternative is not good. The alternative is to burn fossil fuels or to move into nuclear power, which is something that the United States is doing an effort now. But nuclear power, it's heavily intensive in terms of capital. It takes like many years for you to actually achieve results. And some people say that it might not be considered green energy. It's a kind of a yellow energy because it does produce dangerous residues, even though they're much more controllable in a smaller scale. And as we know from history, things can go wrong. And when things go wrong in nuclear power, it's actually very worrisome.
I think about this topic we could discuss for a minimum of 10 hours or so.
Absolutely, but thank you.
Jessika, how important is the issue of pollution for the European Commission?
Thank you for having me. I think this is a very timely discussion. I'm also very thankful for that we can have this discussion. Yes, I would say it is really important of reasons that you mentioned in your introduction. I mean, it's a question of health for people and the premature death that you talk about, the environmental impact it have, for the competitiveness. I mean, we all need clean air and clean water and clean soil. So I would say it's very important. If I may say so also, being a commissioner for 1.5 months or something, the last mandate the commission made really important legislations on the green transition. We did the Green Deal, which is also a compound of very many of different legislations and actions. One is on pollution, zero pollution action. which we also now need to implement. And that will be a huge part of my job, so to say. So I would say that this is important, all these reasons that you mentioned. But I will also be honest to say, in my view, we maybe have not focused enough on these issues. We're talking about pollution as a whole, and I would say that a lot of my work is also on biodiversity and water, and these are of course affected. I mean, everything is linked, but this is obviously linked. So I think the focus is there. I hope that we can also bring the political will, but we also need to work together. So, and then we go back to the energy, but that's another thing. But yes, I would say that we have a lot of legislations, and I would also agree with you that the situation is bad in many ways, but we also have some hope that we see that it's also getting better in certain areas, not all. We have still problems with noise, for example, and agriculture and things. So.
But transforming business and implementing technologies costs a lot of money. And of course, the economic situation in the European Union is not so great at the moment. So do you feel really there's really the push there to implement what you just described?
I would, that suppose depends, but I would say that industries and if we want to be competitive, everybody understands we also need clean air, clean water, clean soil. So I think maybe, I hope also that we all, because it's, of course, the policymakers as I need to make the regulations, and maybe we need some more, I cannot say exactly what, but it's also up to us together, member states, regions, industries, businesses, to work together towards and using the innovations that also are. And the funding is, of course, of great concern. I mean, that's when it comes to my portfolio, I would say that is one of the things that we know. We know water on a global scale will cost a lot of money, but the cost of doing nothing is also immense. Mm-hmm. And the cost of cleaning up pollution, we maybe come into that later, that's also huge. I know the figures for Europe, and I mean, that's only Europe. So I would say that we need to find funding. Public money will not be enough. In Europe, we have a lot of, we have climate change, we have war in Ukraine, we have a lot of things that also needs money. So of course that would be a challenge. So I'm looking also to see on innovation, on financing, that I think will be necessary, but also very close to the industry to see how can we help. Then we have some problem in Europe. We have to have a capital market union and so forth. But the question is a very good question because we need to discuss it more.
Okay, thank you. Takayuki, you are from the business side, of course. What can business offer with regards to implementing technologies which help us tackle pollution?
I think technology is available, right? And as Roswall said, and funding or costing is issue, and also Lemos talked about like clean energy issue. But I think today, in the past, locally manufactured, locally consumed. So pollution issue is a local issue, and it's a bit easier for us to handle. But today, right, and supply chain is going to be global. So it's very difficult for people to understand like pollutions and also the situations and by their eyes. So I think that supply chain issue is a very fundamental. And the technology helps people to visualize those things. For example, like satellite, and NEC is manufacturing satellite-based sensoring. Mm-hmm. And the technology is advanced so quickly. We can detect like 10 centimeters each on the surface of Earth, and situation changes. We can detect. And so I think that by using those kind of technology, people can understand what's happening, how that the kind of downstream, upstream manufacturing cause and the downstream pollutions. And that is the both most important things, people's environmental literacy. So how we can improve like recognition and literacy and about pollution. And that part is kind of helped by the technology.
But what is the incentive for you as a company to invest in green technologies?
I think there are several things we need to think about. Firstly, most easy one is a regulation, right? And in the past, for example, in Japan, now Japan is very famous for clean water, clean air. But we experienced very significant pollutions, and like patients died due to the wastewater and the pollutions, and also the children were suffering from the asthma and caused by like dust of like factories. I think that case, like this investigation reviewed those things are causing those kind of issues, so that people like recognized the importance of this, and all the necessary regulation enacted. And then that is forced the industry to be equipped with necessary technology and so on.
The industry had to change.
Yes.
There was political pressure and from society, so the industry had to change.
Yes, so I think that the issue today, as I mentioned, it's a multinational, right? So we really think about how we can be creating like environmental literacy among the people in many countries. How we can be building up, that is the issue.
Ronaldo, would you agree that environmental literacy is one point to help with regards to implementing technology, that people are more aware?
Oh, yeah.
What is the problem?
Absolutely. In Brazil, every year we run a national research to ask people about their knowledge in terms of environmental and pollution problems. And it's amazing how big the percentage always is of people that are completely outside of the public debate about these issues, and they are not equipped or informed to participate in them. So I think literacy, as Morita-san just mentioned, I think it's absolutely crucial. The other thing is we have to be more generous with the definition of technology, because on one side you have what we can call shiny technology. So technology that are subject to patents, and those include rockets and screens and AI. They are very important. So satellite imagery is extremely important, for instance, for the preservation of the Amazon forest. It's been used very smartly to do that. AI will have a very important role in order, for instance, to reduce water consumption from data centers. So one typical data center consumes around 2 million liters of water per day because they need to be cooled. And using AI and smart technologies for cooling, you can reduce that amount significantly. So this technology, I think, is extremely important. But the reason I mentioned we have to be generous is that we have to look into other technologies that are not subject to patents as well. So a biodigester used to do biomethane is not as cool.
The solution can be simple.
Yeah,
simple.
it's not as cool as a rocket or a satellite, but it might be even more useful, and it's cheaper. And when you think about the infrastructure that can be built around this decentralized power generation, that it doesn't add basically nothing in terms of emissions to the atmosphere, that can be revolutionary. So countries that are already doing agriculture intensively can use their residues, biodigesters, And the final residue is actually what we call digestate, which is nitrogen, which are fertilizers. So in the end, you have a final product that is even useful for agriculture. So my claim here is, let's be generous with technology. Let's use cutting-edge, modern, patent technology, but let's look into the stuff that are not as capital intensive, because I think they can provide good solutions as well.
Jessika, do you agree?
Yes, to be generous, absolutely, and share and learn by mistakes, I suppose, also important, definitely. But if I may also go back
Of course.
to the people's awareness.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think this is crucial, and I also I try to talk very often on different angles on my portfolio, on circularity, on water, and all this, and pollution. We also need to do our own change of mindset. And one example, which I think, well, we can discuss also another, it's textiles. It's something that I think that consumers also know now more about the impact that textiles have on the environment, on pollution and water use. So here we need to be, from media has a big role, of course. I have a big role, and businesses have a big role. But consumers also have a role in also demanding for the right products, so to say. So I think this is important, and that also comes to a lot of other things that we have also when it comes to pollution. I mean, now in Europe we have a lot of discussion on PFAS, now on the forever chemicals, on the pollution it has done on the water. And continuing to do. I mean, this is also it's bad and sad and tragic, of course, but it's also good that we have the discussion. And here I think there's a lot of much more work to do, but also having as a politician, I mean, also to try to see the solutions. And this I cannot do myself. I need also the businesses and industries and the innovators to see that. So I think this is a combined role that we have. But absolutely, of course, I think that's it's important to use the technique, and I'm hopeful that we can. And technique is so much. I'm not a technician. I mean, you know much more about this.
But we are not there where we want to be, obviously.
No.
So speed is of importance. Different kind of solutions, obviously. It doesn't have to be so complicated. Money is probably also important, yeah? So I want to ask you again, what would be the incentive for you as a business company to say, we invest in this green technology? There's
I
political pressure, you said, but also from a business side.
Yeah,
that
two
would be
things.
interesting.
I think probably you mentioned about consumers, right? And if consumer do not like a company, right? That's very big incentive for the company to take action. And the second, this is also very important, like equity market, okay? Equity market have to mention about what companies we should be supporting, okay? So I'm not sure what happened to ESG, but I think that that is a kind of themes, and all the companies around the world and watched carefully, and at least in the past, right? So I think how the A company is kind of environmentally friendly, if this is kind of given like a premium on the company and market values, that's significant, right? So this is a kind of investor's responsibility. And also, I think a lot of kind of index available. So we should be talking about some kind of indexes, like evaluating like whether a company is more environmental friendly or less friendly, right?
Okay, but do you really have the feeling that investors care?
I think so, because this is a very much a sustainability issue, right? And as a going concern, right? And look at the alcoholic, right? And look at tobacco, right? And once that is a kind of defined as a kind of killing the kind of the things to the people, and then company value is crashing, right? So the same thing. So that's why I'm keep saying environmental literacy is very important. In order to have this environmental literacy, visualization is very important. And the visualization, I think, comes from two sides, macro and micro. And macro is a satellite and visualizing and globally, and micro is a tracking. And tracking is now everybody talking about information sharing platforms, and now we can share all the informations without sharing very competitive information, thanks to several technologies. So that's kind of things we have to think about.
So consumer pressure seems to be very important. Would you agree? Is that one thing where we can use consumer pressure so that technologies are implemented faster?
Oh yeah, dissatisfied consumers are very powerful, as any company would know. And when we think about the more contemporary problems, so sorry to keep insisting on the data center, but it's the talking of the day. Think about what's going on, for instance, in Oxfordshire, in England, in which a recent data center is competing with water resources with the population. So in that case, there's a direct perception of what's going on. So you're putting pressure over the water system that is directed to humans, because there is this important infrastructure that is basically using a lot of that water. We are going to see that happen more and more. So as we see this expansion and the appetite for artificial intelligence, there will be data centers competing with resources, with humans, we can put it like that, both for electricity, putting pressure on the power grids, and also for water. And when that happens, I think what we are seeing in this probably initial example that is happening in the UK, we will see it a lot. There will be a lot of citizens and consumers that will be upset because they will visibly and physically suffer in a very clear way in regards to that infrastructure. And of course, I think this can provide a lot of incentives to fix the problem. Right now, when we talk about these issues, they seem more like a theoretical or things that are kind of remote. It's a problem that is somewhere, but it's probably not close to me. But in the future, I think we are going to experience that at least in some extent in our day-to-day lives.
Jessika, do you agree with the idea to have, for example, green labels for data centers so that they kind of are ecologically certified, that they don't use so much energy? That would be a sensible implementation, for example?
I think we need to think about it in a holistic way, and on the exact labeling, of course, we discuss a lot of labeling in products that are coming from not only data centers, but I would say that you touched on a very important thing when it comes to data centers, of course. It's absolutely one of the things we discuss a lot now. Mm-hmm. And I would say water, that is in my title, is I think we need to also wake the awareness of how we use water. That comes to all of us, and it's use and reuse, especially maybe for data centers. And there are some innovations that actually can function also. We talk about, we should not, I mean, we talk a lot about wastewater and the and cleaning up, but we need to talk more about reuse water. And I absolutely think that there are possibilities to do both, because we need the data centers in other parts. If I may take water again then, because we have a huge problem with leakage of water. Probably all around the world, but again, I know more about the European Union. And here, I do believe that AI and tech can help us to find the leakages, and hopefully we have the money to also to fix it. So it's, again, I mean, as always in politics, maybe there's no one answer. It's a different parts that hopefully can bring some clarity. I would say back on the not only consumers' pressure. I would say that from again a European perspective, we have some challenges when it comes to competitiveness. And I mean, we all read the Draghi report last year and the Letta report and the Ministry report on security, which is also about pollution in one way. And my reading of these reports is that, yes, it goes hand in hand, that Europe can be competitive, and also the rest of the world, of course, and sustainable. That is the future. It's no other future. And that's why I think the Green Deal is very good and something to build on. I think it's not only the consumers, of course, that I'm also a consumer, are important, policymakers and in businesses, but as I say, businesses are also driven by a market, and so I hope that we can build on this.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you can join the discussion if you like. Please raise your hand and then you will get a mic. But yeah, okay, there's already one question. Please, we just wait for a moment because we don't just want to discuss between ourselves. Please say where you come from also.
Hi, my name is Mohit. I come from New Delhi, and so air pollution is a very here and now problem with direct correlation to mortality. I picked up two things so far from the panel. One is satellite imagery to help understand where the problem is with the Amazon example, and environmental literacy to try and drive change. Can the panelists help me understand a city or a technology or a company which is a good case study for something like New Delhi to look at to understand on how we can actually specifically remove or help with air pollution?
I would address the matter.
I think there's a number of interesting examples. The first one that comes to my mind is Shenzhen in the south of China. Shenzhen used one particular technology, which was electric cars, in order to transform their fleet. As we know, when you visit Beijing faces a lot of problems with pollution. If you go to Shenzhen, there's like 12 million people living there. And the landscape has changed completely because of lowering the emissions from cars. There's another discussion, which is the role of electric technologies, which also lead to residues and that have to be managed. But I think in terms of quality of life, if you visit a city like Shenzhen, I think it's visible how much progress they did by betting on electric cars. And of course, using governmental incentives for that and transforming public vehicles like police car, buses, and public transportation first, and then deploying them as for taxi drivers and so on. So the strategy that was applied is very interesting to see. But let me switch to the other side of the world because I'll give you another example. So a city in Brazil called Goiânia is implementing something similar to Shenzhen, but in regards to biomethane. So basically what they are doing, they are building a fleet of 500 buses that will be moved by biomethane, and with that, you guarantee the demand, because there's always a problem of demand or supply. Should I put the supply in order first or the demand in order? So they will guarantee an yearly consumption. And biomethane, even though it's not 100% free of residues as electricity, the quality of the air is much better than you were burning gasoline or diesel or anything like that. So I think this experiment that is going on there might also inspire other countries that are not necessarily inclined to adopt electricity and electric cars, because there are alternatives. Just to close up, in transportation, Brazil has 48% of renewable energy in its fleet. And the reason for that is ethanol. The country since the 70s has been using ethanol as a source of energy. And the global average for renewable sources in transportation are around 18%. So Brazil is well above that margin as well. So I just want to say that other possibilities there are. Look to Shenzhen, but also look to Goiânia in a city like Brazil as well.
But let me ask for a European example as well. Jessika, do you have one?
No, not that direct, but I would say we have very many cities that are in the front line around Europe. That, as I said, we have this zero pollution action plan, and it was also evaluated just a couple of weeks ago. And we see still a lot of challenges around Europe on the air quality, but there are also cities that are, and of course we start also from different. We are as India, of course. Europe is very different from if you go from where I come from, Stockholm, in Sweden to other parts. So, but unfortunately, I don't have a good example. I'm afraid not.
Norway, probably.
Oh yeah, my hometown in Enköping probably, but I don't know what they do.
Okay.
So no.
Okay, thank you, Jessika. So, are there any more questions? Okay, here. Sorry.
Hi. My name is Badargil, and I'm from Mongolia. And I want to ask more about access of these technologies, right? Obviously, we have these amazing technologies that are, accelerating faster than we can witness. But unfortunately, in the global south, in the low-income countries, no matter how good these technologies are, we just can't have access to it.
Yeah.
And in Mongolia, our air pollution in the winter is just
Very
one
high.
of the worst in the world. And the PM 2.5, the regular levels, healthy levels is 50. But recently, like a few weeks ago, I went to the Gare districts to measure the levels of PM 2.5. It was 800, above 800, right? So it's just hazardous level. So, I mean, obviously solar is one of those technologies that are just exceeding the expectations that we've been talking about. But, solar is one of those solutions that we can have access to, but we just don't have the, the financing to be able to have access to. So how can technology companies, drive these, so systems to make sure that the countries in the global south can have access to such technologies? So that's important for us
Takayuki,
to.
how about the cooperation with Mongolia?
I think probably what technology company can do is a kind of indirect. I mean, as I mentioned, and today, with the public informations, we can visualize how the pollution situation is so bad in this area and this area. So I think with those kind of visualization systems, the people can share the common understanding where we have the biggest issues.
But the access to the technology, do you think it's there in Mongolia as well? That was
Yeah, that's why I'm talking about indirect. And I think that pollutions, normally air pollutions, is kind of reduced probably by registrations rather than a simple technology. And I don't think any single technology can clean up whole air, right? So I think each factories or vehicles have to be regulated and in a certain levels. And in order to enacting those things, probably those kind of pollution informations, comparisons of countries are very much important, I think.
Ronaldo, you were talking about simple solutions also, fairly simple solutions.
Yeah.
Can you imagine also that these kind of solutions would be possible for Mongolia?
Oh yeah, these simple solutions, they are easily available everywhere because you don't have IP protections or anything like that. You just need to think about infrastructure. So, and biomethane can be produced from anything. So it can be sewage, it can be animal residues, it can be agricultural residues. The issue is, once you get the gas, you can transport it by truck, liquefying it, but you can only transport it for 400 kilometers. So you need, at certain point, gas pipes in order to make it economic viable and basically capable of creating a network. But thinking about this, I think this is a solution that is available everywhere. I'm talking about simple things. Can I mention one very complicated thing that can be very impactful? There is also the promise of fusion energy. So nuclear fusion is something that has been tried for many decades now. You have the tokamak approach, you have different approaches. And in the past 5 to 10 years, there has been progress in this field like never before. So you have companies, for instance, the founder of OpenAI, Sam Altman, has a company of fusion called Helion. And they have a different approach of how to use it and how to achieve it. But the promise of fusion energy is actually really impressive, right? It's free, clean energy.
But it's still a promise. It's
a promise.
A future. We don't know if it will work out as it is.
Humanity has been trying it for around 40, 50 years. There has been some steps forward, a couple of steps back. But when we reach it, the promise is very important. We are still not there, but I think we see some progress in the past 5 to 10 years, and we have to look for that because that can change the entire conversation we are having here. But again, this is one of the shiny, amazing technologies, but they belong in the future. And I think for right here, right now, we don't have the option of doing anything and neglecting the other approaches as well.
Yeah. Jessika?
But I think the question is very, very relevant also. We talk a lot about the tech and using the AI and believing in that also as the solutions. One thing that is extremely important when it comes to pollution and environment and climate is the global cooperation, of course. So that is also something that we need to work on much more. But then I would also add maybe also that the open data discussion is something that I think drives innovation that we all benefit from. So that is, of course, something that we need to work on also on a global level. Sorry.
But what can a citizen, ordinary citizen, do who's suffering from air pollution, for example? What should he or she do? And what I understood from you, exercise some pressure, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, making people aware that there is a problem?
Yes, that's, I think, very important. And increasing the environmental literacy is very important for solving these issues, global level.
Yeah.
One is the thing that we have now, I mean, we all have on our iPhone or our phones this app on the pollution, how much.
Yes.
I mean, this is also something that is easy for me to know how the situation is in my town where I am. So that is in tech, using the tech also and bringing awareness.
Okay. So there's another question, the last question, unfortunately. Please go ahead, but just wait for the mic so that also the audience outside can hear your question.
Thank you so much. It's such an important subject. What's going on with the plastic situation? I mean, you were saying to start with that this huge plastic island in the ocean. Are there new solutions that have been found? Could there be regulations? I'm still completely stunned that some airlines are distributing mini bottles of water on their flights. Are there new technologies to transform, recycle completely plastic and reuse it? I mean, I'm hearing about many ideas every day, but what can we do? I mean, this is crazy.
Please, I see.
I'm not sure I have an answer for that, but of course, logistics and information, how do you track plastic? I think it's the number one thing. There are interesting initiatives about tracking plastic in the ocean that are somehow effective.
Okay, then we have tracked it, and then what would be the next step?
That's the question. So putting capital in order to recycle it, but also material science. So for instance, there has been research about new materials that are equivalent to plastic. I visited the Federal University of the Amazon, in which they're using local compounds in order to develop a higher scale material that can be degradable in a different way that plastic is. So that is also, I think, important to keep a look at. But I'm afraid I don't have a solution that is good for your...
We were working on the information sharing platforms. And so in the case of plastic, once it's kind of going to the micro, and it's going to be very costly to clean up. So we really need to keep things from out.
Yeah.
That's a very important.
Yeah.
And other, of course, right, as you mentioned, the material science is a kind of working on like a new types of plastics. It's a kind of more environment friendly. But right now, it's a strengthness of that kind of plastic is right now. Yeah. It's a key. But the technology will be evolving, and I hope that like more like strong and like plastic which is more environment friendly plastic will be available. I hope.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we don't have any plastic treaty, but hopefully we will.
Okay. So thank you very much for that very interesting discussions, also for the questions. Unfortunately, our time is over. We learned that there are solutions, but they have to be implemented and pressure has to be exercised. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.